What is it like being a Jamaican in St. Martin? Hi, I'm Xavier Murphy, founder of Jamaicans.com, and today in Jamaicans to the World, I talk to Wilford Brown, a Jamaican living in St. Martin. Wilfred, how are you, or can I call you Will?
Yes, Will is fine, and I'm doing great, thanks.
All right, so which part of Jamaica you come from?
I was born in Kingston. I spent a lot of years. I went to Blake's Preparatory School behind Casey. And right after common entrance, my mom shifted me out of Kingston and moved me to Mandeville, where I lived for a little while. And then the rest of my life before I leave Jamaica was spent in Maypen, Clarendon. So I'm a little mixture of country and town and everything in there.
So did you want to go to KC?
Actually, no. My preference was Calabar. My mom wanted me to go to Woolmer's Boys School, but I didn't want to go to an all-boys school. But my love was Calabar, but I ended up at Beaumont's Comprehensive College instead in Mandeville.
I see. Wow. Because I'm saying to myself, you're right there in the trust of things. And,
Yeah, but
and you know, I always say I tease my KC friends,
Mhm.
I'm from Jamaica College, but my KC friends, I say,
Yes.
you all have the worst cult, man. I mean, it's a
You know, I had a couple of issues. I developed a couple of issues with the idea of KC when I was good. It's a brilliant school. Let me put it out there first that I have friends from KC.
Listen, no, I don't want to
Brilliant.
comment. Be careful what you say now.
No, I am gonna, he and I have had this conversation, so he's gonna understand when when he sees this. I love the idea. The academic level of KC is right there. They have proven themselves over the years by all the things that they have accomplished, and they have put themselves out to make you know that this accomplishment came because of my relationship, being a part of KC. But I saw Calabar as a school that was a part of the community. Was it that there was the people from the community went there. There's guys I know that they were poor just like me, and they were pushing it through there, and their father was not rich and have money or anything like that. And I just felt that the community environment that I felt that Calabar carried, Casey didn't carry that. They had this eliteness about them. And I'm like,
wait. Listen. And can you believe, folks, I'm a JC guy and I'm about to defend Kingston College. I'm a JC guy and I'm going to get it because of what I'm about to say. I don't agree with anything you just said.
hey, as I said, they also here's what it is. Like kid, to me they were winning everything and they were full of themselves. And I'm like, let me take off a chip off of your shoulder for this one. And I'm gonna go this route.
So if they're winning everything, I mean,
Yeah.
I get that. But they're a tight-knit community.
Yes, and I love that about them.
Tight-knit community. And
Yes.
I give them credit for that, and my KC friends credit for that.
Mhm,
All the time. All right. I want to move out of this because I
see.
the
For all the KC people, I love them all.
So tell us your story. How did you get to St. Martin?
Oh Lord, it's by default. So let me put it. I call it by default because I actually married a young lady that's from St. Martin. She's been living in the U.S. for many years. She went to college in St. Martin and everything. And we actually went to the same church, and we got married. I remember when we were dating, she mentioned she's from St. Martin, and I'm like, St. Martin, where is that? I don't know. You know what I mean? So I went home and I looked it up, and it was a dot on the map. And I'm like, I can't live on this dot. I can't check this place out. But in the process of our date, and I started to realize that she always made this comment that if you're gonna have a relationship with me, you have to keep it in your mind that one day you're gonna live in St. Martin. And she started planting that seed. And that's how it germinated to where I am now. I'll take a short story. I'll take a long story short.
Wow. And how long have you lived there?
My wife and I have been married 70. This month actually is our 17-year anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
And, thank you, sir. And I've lived here since 2016. I came the year before Irma.
Okay.
So I've been here officially. I said that they were here a little bit before because I got my wife and kids down and got them in school and everything. But I came down. I officially was able to shut down my business in Florida and sort of made the transition in 2016.
So I know you mentioned business, and you and I have spoken, and you know you're into entrepreneurship. You have a
Oh,
book.
Lord.
No. And you and I talked about the book. I mean, awesome book. But you have a channel first. Let's talk about business first. You have a YouTube.
Yeah, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I grew up I consider an entrepreneurial family. As a young man, I didn't even recognize it as entrepreneurship. I just thought it was a normal way of life. Everybody had something they were doing for themselves and making money. But I developed entrepreneurship I realized when I was very young that I had the knack for it. Actually, I owned my first company when I was 21, living in Toronto, Canada. And so I developed from that. So I'm all about entrepreneur. I have a channel on YouTube called Entrepreneurs and Creative Thinkers. And I'm always about giving entrepreneur ideas. I keep workshops for young people in leadership and entrepreneurship. I'm working on one down here now before the end of the year. I used to do it a lot in Fort Lauderdale. I'm all about entrepreneurship and leadership program for young generation because I see there's a lack in that.
Repeat the YouTube channel again.
Entrepreneur Creative Thinkers.
All right. And you also are an author. You had a book.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I were, again, talked a little bit about the book. I don't want to give it. Tell about the book.
Actually, the book is called A Great Fight is a Product of Great Faith. My picture and everything, the bio on the book is on the back of the book. I wrote this book about 7 years ago. It took about 7 years to get it out. I sat on it for a while until I felt in my spirit that the time was right. And so last year I released it. I did my book release in Fort Lauderdale, actually. And I did another release here in St. Maarten. And so far we've been doing extremely well. You can find it online whether it's Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or anywhere books are sold online, you should be able to find the book. It's all over the place right now. And it's doing pretty well, I must say that.
So give us a little taste of what the book is about.
The book is about the struggles of life we all face. There's a quote in the book says, you don't choose the giants that come in front of you, but you choose the way you deal with it. So there's a quote that says, what's inside of you is bigger than the giant standing in front of you. And it chronicles my journey as a youth coming up out of Jamaica, because whether we like it or not, Jamaica can be a very dysfunctional environment based on where you grow up and who you grew up with, because you see how generational thinking has been passed on from one to the other, and no one took the time to fix it. So we realize that the fixing part is a personal journey each person has to take to get yourself to the next level, because if you don't do that, you're liable to pass it on to your children. And I got 3 of those. So I have to make sure that one of my things was to make sure that whatever dysfunctional was passed on to me, I release myself from all of that so I can be the best father for them while they're growing up. So I wrote the book and I sort of chronicle a lot of the dysfunctional things that I had to deal with without compromising the person who the experience was with, without giving up names or a relationship or anything like that, but chronicle the journey, the experience, and how I got through it. That hopefully that somebody might read it and say, I can identify to this story, but I didn't think of it from that way to get rid of it. And so that's basically what the book did for me. It helped me to purge and get past it.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah.
We'll talk about showcasing it like we do. We love to showcase Jamaica, Jamaicans, authors, and their books on our Jamaicans platform. So we'll get that out there for you folks.
No problem.
Right. Let's jump back into St. Maarten. What are the people there like in terms of just the nature? A lot of people think Caribbean. Everybody is very similar. And I try to tell folks, especially folks in, US, Canada, and all these, we're not all alike. We're very different.
You're sometimes affected by the environment in which you're in, whether we want to admit it or not. We might be Jamaicans to our core, but we are also affected by the environment and the people we mingle ourselves with. St. Maarten is no different. Years ago, St. Maarten to me is like a boutique type of island. There's actually countries governed by 2 main countries. Like one side is governed by Holland and the other side is governed by France. It's like you're living in 2 countries.
Right.
There's a border, but you could freely move from one country to the other without a problem. So it's like a boutique island. I think the thing that attracted me, and I'll be honest with you, when I first thought about living in St. Maarten, I had a difficult time dealing with it. My wife had to ask me, am I sure I want to make this move when we officially decide to do it? And one of the things I did, I took about a year or two just to really study the dynamics of not just St. Maarten, but the region, and find out that it had what I call a symbiotic relationship. There is about 3 or 4 other islands adjacent to St. Maarten, 20-minute boat ride. There's Saba, Central Stations, Anguilla, St. Kitts and Nevis around the corner. All these countries, St. Bart's, are all within 20-minute boat ride. And they all traffic moves through St. Maarten. So if you want to go to Anguilla, you normally fly to St. Maarten, come off the plane, take a boat to Anguilla or to St. Bart's or to St. Eustatius or whatever these other islands are surrounded. And the commerce is the same way. They're buying stuff. They come to St. Maarten, buy, and go back to where they are. The ships that bring the cargo in come to St. Maarten. So the symbiotic relationship is really locked in. So it's not just St. Maarten you now have access to. You have access to all these other islands around with its own uniqueness and friendliness and fun. So, you can take a week in an island hop to 2, 3 islands if you want to. And so I found that exciting. So I said, now I can live with that. If I just talk about, remember, St. Maarten has about 100 and 120,000 people living on the whole island, both Dutch and French side. So it's a small island. So when you think about now how you expand it, you say, okay, I want to go to Anguilla today. It's a British territory. You jump on your boat, 20 minutes you're in Anguilla. You come back, you decide you want to go to St. Bart's, which is another Dutch territory. You jump on your boat and you're there. So it's really the boutiqueness about it. And St. Maarten is called a friendly island, and people are really friendly. But you find a lot of different cultures live here, though. All these little Surinams and Santo Domingo people and all the St. Kitts and Nevis, all these little island people, they live on this island. There's a nice little melting pot of Caribbean people. Trinidad, Guyana, all these people live here. And a whole bunch of Jamaicans. Believe me, we are plentiful.
So let me ask you this. I've been there, I think it was a cruise stop. So,
it is a big cruise stop.
So there's both sides to this. And both have basically the same name. Both sides basically are.
Yeah, one is spelled the French way, which is Marti in Martin. And one is spelled the Dutch way, Maarten.
Right.
But if you look it up, you're gonna always see on the international label Martin, Martin, the French way. When they put it up, that covers the entire island. And that's how they do it. So I don't know what to tell you.
I see, because to me, it's all, when I look up the pronunciation, I'm saying the same thing, St. Maarten for both.
Yeah.
But one
says Dutch, one says French. Everybody tries to be different.
French and one is Dutch,
Right.
And so the Dutch influence, talk to me a little bit. How is the Dutch influence?
I tell when I was in school in Jamaica, I never studied. We studied the slave trade and the transit in which the route the slaves come to the Caribbean and stuff like that. We knew that initially, but we never knew the dynamics of which country did what. And so when I met my wife, I remember one day we went to Miami to renew our Dutch passport, and there was a book in their lobby telling you about the transshipment region and how that Holland has built an industry around it. And they were Holland was shipping companies was one of the companies that brought slaves from Africa straight here to the Caribbean to one of their main ports, as it was in Curacao. And then the ships would take them there and send them off to different parts of the Caribbean. So that history is very much prominent in this region. And the Dutch still controls that route up till this day. From the slave route they had originally, they still control it up till this day.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a little deeper, but I don't want to go into the depth of it. But when you see it, you're like, okay. And one of the territories that's close by is Curacao, one of their main Dutch territory. That's where they were. The Holland would go to and disperse any finance or commerce to all the other districts. My wife's favorite little Dutch island. That's her thing. But they're all different. They're all different and unique in their own way. Have their differences in it. It's just like Aruba, different. Dutch, another Dutch territory. And so if you really start examining each one, you see the differences in them and the uniqueness at all in the same time.
Nice, nice. No, I know you mentioned it's it's mixed, diverse, and
Mm-hmm.
so forth. You can drive. There's no border, but
No, you can drive
you just drive from the French to the
to the
Dutch,
Dutch, Dutch to the French.
to the French,
Exactly.
and so
There's a couple hot spots I like on the French side. So my wife and I, when we do our date nights, actually later today, I will be in one of those hot spots on the French side, hanging out for the rest of the evening,
so
and
so
bring my kids with me. And we all have fun down there. So that's just how it is.
so
There's no borderline, so you can't go over or nothing like that. Not like that.
is there anything that designate for you? Because I don't remember this from the start, really.
Hmm.
That designate, okay, I use this type of money here and I use this type of money there, or is it just like
Funny enough.
money?
Okay, at each side there's a border point, so you will know when you cross into the French territory. There's a border point at each section that gives you it's like a monument, border monument, and it tells you, oh, you're in the French territory. They use euro over there, but the most dominant currency in this region is still the U.S. dollar. They have an ability to handle exchange rates in the local store like better like us in the US, who don't do it very often, who has to go look up what the rate of exchange is online or go to the bank. They know that daily. That's their thing. So you can now, the euro and the US is on the same value now. You can certainly, a lot of people go to the French side and buy stuff and come back over and so on and so forth. So although you have all these currencies running around, the U.S. currency is the dominant. It's even more dominant than local currency because most people want to handle the U.S. currency.
I see.
Mind you, the Dutch currency is $1.80 to one U.S. It's better than our Jamaican, mind you.
don't
But
talk about our so so how are Jamaicans viewed, and what happens when you typically say to, and I hate to use the term native, but someone that's grew up in St. Maarten, and you say, I'm Jamaican. What's the typical?
I want to be honest with you. And I had the same discussion with a gentleman recently who was at the book fair, a Jamaican poet that lives in the U.S. And we were talking about a project I'm about to start working on for down here. Jamaicans have its own, I want to say, negative and positive reputation. And it takes each individual to become responsible for our own actions to start to change that narrative. Because yes, you have you have some Jamaicans down there that are doing phenomenal things, productive, member society, own a lot of businesses, doing very, very well. And then you have the derelicts that are just, can't get the Jamaican certain type of things out of their system. They come here with the same crap and, find themselves in trouble. And, when the people look at it, they don't look at it as if to say that's just one individual person. They take that big brush and paint it on all Jamaicans. And so when I get to that table of conversation, I try to make sure that while you're willing to paint us with that one brush, there are other people from the other societies done the same thing. I hope you're willing to do the same thing for them. And so people start reeling it back and say, you're right. They're good and bad in every culture, every race, and you can't just take one brush paint us all, because there's a lot of people here doing a lot of major things.
Okay. So I leave it at there's some good, there's some bad.
Everywhere we go, man, we have a way of just stirring the pot. Everywhere we go, we stir the pot. Sometimes we stir it too much.
It's our nature. It really is.
Funny enough, I have been blessed to live a few good places. After high school, my mom shipped me to Toronto, Canada, which I spent about 12, 15 years there. Went to college, the whole 9 yards. And I saw the same thing about Jamaicans in Toronto. Some people used to call themselves Jamaicans when they were not Jamaicans, just to embrace that reputation that Jamaicans have. Mind you, they were Jamaicans. They're doing phenomenal things, and nobody talked much about them. When I moved from Toronto to Florida back in '91, one of the first things that attracted me to Fort Lauderdale, especially Broward County, is the impacts Jamaicans were making in that county. We held commissioner's position, we held mayor's position, we were on prominent boards, we were making influential, we were in decision-making positions. And I was impressed. That was one of the biggest things that impressed me to move from Toronto to Fort Lauderdale, because I saw us making strides and inroads in areas that it took a long time in Toronto for us to do that. So I'm like, this is where I want to be. I want to be where we're doing this type of progressive movement to get us to the next level. And I just one of the reasons I lived in Florida all this time.
Kingston 21, that's what we call South Florida.
Listen, me, man. They call, I used to live in Inverary. They call out of me a Kingston 13. All type of nonsense.
So
I'm like, she's for crazy.
So food. What's the food like in St. Martin?
Yeah, we have our Jamaican influence in food here.
And let me add to that. If there was one dish you would recommend that I try or any of our viewers here try if they visit, what would that be?
Their most famous food here is Johnny Cake. So Johnny Cake with anything, with chicken, with curry goat, with oxtail, anything with Johnny Cake is good. That's their big thing. Johnny Cake and chicken is their national thing. And
are we talking about the same Johnny Cake? Because I have to be careful. Careful because I know some of the other islands call like Callaloo. I discovered that Callaloo here in US Virgin Island is not the same Callaloo that, you know. So is it the same Johnny Cake we're talking about, same fried dumpling?
No. There's a difference between the fried dumpling and Johnny Cake for them. They make it different. There's coming like flitters. But it's fluffy.
Okay.
And we have a Jamaican restaurant. I buy breakfast from our Jamaican fried dumpling and liver in the mornings. That's a real Jamaican. And so that's one of my rituals in the mornings. I go to my Jamaican restaurant, pick up my breakfast, and I go to work. But they make theirs a little different, and it's nice. And it's the same thing, but a little different. It's nice.
All right.
Because
so like the shape of it is
the shape different. Shape different. That's it. That's right. The shape of the fish is like a big flat and nice and fluffy, and they bake it in the oven, whichever way they like doing it. This is a shape. That's the thing.
Right. So
can't tell them that, though. They'll cuss you.
So the fruits you get in your mangoes.
Man, we got so much mango trees. One of the things about mangoes here is that mango come in here from Santo Domingo and come in a lot. So mango is a major thing down here, and I'm a big mango fan. So when mango season, my favorite season, that I eat mango till I can't move. So you know that we're just coming out of mango season now here too. So you get all the fruits that you can conceive here. Okay. The Jamaicans them here love their ackee, so they will send home for it if they have to. You know what I mean?
Nobody growing an ackee trees.
Yeah, there's a guy on my job here works with me. He has an ackee tree in his yard. So I just saw his neighbor, who also works with us, brought a bag in here yesterday and put it in my fridge. So yeah, but we don't miss anything down here that we cannot get at home. Okay. There is always somebody providing it in more ways than one. Jerk chicken is always a big thing anywhere you go. And that's a big thing here. Jerk chicken and jerk pork, it's a big thing here. So Jamaicans are going to bring. So one thing about us as a people, we bring our culture with us everywhere we go. Everywhere we go, we transform the whole area to match where we're coming from. And that is something I learned. I learned that in a big way. I see it in Toronto when I was living there for years. I saw it big time in Florida. And I come every country I've been to where Jamaicans live, we bring our culture with us front and center. And that to me is a beautiful thing anyway. Exactly. You can't miss us. That's one thing with us. You can't miss us.
No, in terms of cost of living, and if you can give us an idea by food, like the cost of a medium meal. What's the cost of living like?
I'm going to say the average medium meal is going to be. All right, let's back it up a little bit. If you buy the local restaurants around town, you can get a meal anywhere between $8 and $10. You're fine. There's a very touristy area in St. Maarten. It's called Simpson Bay. You can find the most exotic restaurants you can think about there. That sells some of the most expensive foods, and you can find the average. So I consider food price average around the board based on where you want to eat and where you want to go. It's no different from me living in Fort Lauderdale, and I can go down into Lauderdale on 12th Street and pick up a good Jamaican meal for $8 or $10, and I can go to Las Olas and buy $100 meal if I want to. So I find the dynamics to be the same. You can I buy breakfast with fried dumpling and liver cost me $5. It's not a big breakfast, a small breakfast is all I want. But if I wanted to eat lavish, like my wife did breakfast the other day at one of the hotels and cost us almost $60. So you're not gonna you can get cheap everywhere and still quality. And if you want to go lavish, you can, it's a real good mixture of that here. And if you want to go real boutique, which the price is going to be in between, you can find that here also. So it's not, I don't find it outrageous to put it to you that way.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, this is not St. Bart's. St. Bart's is one of our neighboring islands. A can of Coke will cost you $20.
Whoa!
They cater to a different type of clientele. The Europeans with a lot of money. They are really a boutique in the fullness of its word. Right. The way the place designed, the way they're catering to the high-end customer. So don't go there thinking you're gonna find a $5 food. You'll find a bottle of water for $5. You know what I mean? That's how they roll. So everybody is different in their own, and they're holding to that by any, because that's where the tourist dollar comes from. That's the bulk of all the tourists. Why the tourists comes there. They the people who go there don't worry about price and spending money for food. So that's how it works. Yeah.
The big ballers go to St. Bart.
St. Bart, or they go to Anguilla. They all do that. You know what I mean? Now, there's a lot of casinos on St. Maarten. So a lot of casino money rolls through St. Maarten.
I see.
St. Maarten is not any different from any other country. We are, like every country, they're dealing with their own economic downturns right now, what's going on globally. But at the same time, they are a hardworking, progressive people. And they're trying to make their way through this game just like everybody else. The only difference is, let me tell you a challenge you're going to have if you're an American moving here. Being in the US, you have access and exposure to everything and anything you want. If you are going to move to a country like St. Maarten, you have to have a game plan. Don't pick up and run, come to any country, small island like that, any Caribbean country for that matter. You need to have a game plan, and a good game plan. Because you're not going to just come in and say, I want to go get a job and I want to do this. It doesn't, you can find it, but it's not the same type of thing. If you're doing comparable to where you are to where you're going to be. So if you don't come with a plan, you're going to find it a little tricky to get where you need to get to real quickly. And so I had to spend some time in Florida before I got to St. Maarten, come up with a plan that would work for me, so I was able to make the money I wanted to make and take care of my family and put me in a spot I needed to be in to be successful here. And that's something that most people don't do. They pick up and say, I'm going to move to this island, but don't realize that if you don't have a game plan, it's a whole different dynamic. It might look good on the Travel Channel when you talk about St. Maarten, but when you come to the island and see you want to live, then you got to be thinking. You really got to work, think it through.
I have this conversation with people all the time where they say, well, I want to pick up, and I went there and visit. I said, listen, being a tourist is totally different than living
on the rock.
Totally different, And
I think that's a lot of people don't do. They watch all these things on the internet and they only show you the pretty parts of everything. But when you come in, you really have to think about the dynamics and how things work, how you're going to function, how you're going to deal with people. Especially when you come to a place where you don't know nobody.
Right.
Nobody. It's like I don't care how much you know in Florida. When you come to St. Maarten, you don't know nobody. When I came in, the first time I knew my wife and her family. So I had to start thinking about how I am going to make this work. And I think I got an idea from Les Brown. I know Les, and I know him through a friend of mine. And Les and I were having this conversation because I was coming to St. Maarten. And he asked me, I tell him I had a business. I was established in St. Maarten, Florida. I'm doing this, da. And he says, you're moving to a small. I said, yeah, I'm gonna take a. I'm not afraid of moving. That never was a fear of mine. Or starting over. It never was a fear of mine. But I had to think about it. And he says, if you want to succeed in a new environment, especially a place you've never been before, develop the idea of what they call board credibility. He said, find someone in the island who you know is established and respected. Attach yourself to that person for a while. Let the city, the community get to know you through that relationship. And when you build it to the point, you can step out. Now that idea is good because if you had to move here, it will take you about 10 years to develop the type of credibility you need that the community will know you and trust you to use you for anything they wanted to do, whatever service you're providing. Because keep in mind, those services they might be not as experienced as you, but they're locals and they're here. And local will use local. But if you're attached to somebody who has the credibility that you're looking for, the reputation you're looking for, through that association, you'll get it. And after what will take you 10 years, you compress it now to 2-3 years and you're good to go. As I developed the idea, push it and ran.
I will be attaching myself to Will Brown if I'm thinking of.
I'm still developing, but.
So I'm going to touch on another topic, music. What is the dominant music that you'll hear? You go, oh,
reggae is everywhere. We have a young generation here, and so you'll find the hip hop being played. There's a big carnival. Carnival is a part of the culture here. So the Latino music, the carnival music, all that type of music, the minto type style music, all genres of music are here. I wouldn't consider any music more dominant than the other. You have to look at it from different contexts. Carnival is a big part of the culture here. So anything carnival is going to trigger an emotional reaction that people are going to fall in love with, want to enjoy. But reggae is also a big dominant with a younger crowd here. Hip hop is also a big because remember now, we're a part of the global community, so we have access to all types of music. So these kids nowadays, they listen to stuff that you and I actually funny. My daughter, one of the things I heard her lately, listen to all the old stuff that you and I grew up on. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, well, you know that music? She said, oh, Daddy, you don't know anything. I'm like, she's 16. I'm like, what are you talking about doing anything? I said, that music is older than you. She laughed. I'm like, okay.
It surprises me, years of my daughters, they're playing Nat King Cole. I'm like,
yeah. Benny Cook. My last night we played my 16-year-old. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, the other two, I'm looking at her too, because I'm like, where you know that from? And I'm like, so Daddy, you don't know anything. I said, okay, you keep doing that. Go ahead. It's that for me, I prefer them listening to that, some of the nonsense that I hear on the radio nowadays, buddy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yes.
I sort of prefer that. So, because I grew up on it and I grew up on the message of the music. So, and some of the messages has helped me. So I can't knock it.
Yep, you have to sift through a lot more than
the fine quality. Yeah.
And the message. Here's the thing though. The message sometimes were deeply hidden back in those days. Because some of the, talking to somebody the other day, some of the mental music, and some of those music had some messages.
Major message, yeah.
Hidden.
It's now at my age, I am listening to somebody that listen to the message in the music. Because I used to like that, but I'm like, but wait a minute, this is just this guy singing. And I'm like, I had to retract and said, really, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. So the carnival there, is it each side have its own carnival, or is it American?
Yes, they both have their own thing, but they also participate in both of them.
It's fun. That to me is fun because
here it is. The French is not going to give up their culture.
Right.
They're going to hold on to it for dear life. But this is nothing wrong with that. I think the idea is that you have even the Dutch people from here who go participate in the French side carnival, and then the French side carnival participates in the Dutch side carnival. Because I know a friend of mine who her sons build a lot of costumes for the Dutch side carnival. So it's not like they have separate, they keep away from each other. They don't do that. They both participate in whatever each other is doing. So I think that's what makes it fun. You know what I mean? When they say the friendly island, they have that. I think that's still prominent here. They might have their issues like everybody else, but that still stands out.
No, that to me is like we have two carnivals. It's like,
And yeah, they trust me. They have their. I went to theirs. I think a couple of months before the Dutch side one, and then my wife said, "Let's take the kids and go over this." All right, went over to go pack up my car, go over there, everybody hang out, and we have fun.
Right.
And then they went over here. They had it one day here, and everybody had fun because it was canceled for a while due to COVID.
Right.
And so now they've been cranking it back up now, and everybody's excited. So everybody come see it. All the parades. Remember, I was a kid. There was Carnival back in the countryside.
Right.
We used to start and watch it.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Well, yes, to an extent, we had our John Kuno and our thing
exactly
in the Christmas time.
Right. Because my grandma is from the deep part of Clarendon, so I used to go to see her them down there do them things. So I remember that.
Well, our family from Clarendon, and I think a whole lot of people know. I always talk about Tweedside, deep in the country down there in Clarendon.
A place called Water Lane or Race Course and Kempsell and back in the bush there.
So let me ask you about language. English I know is there, but is Dutch practiced there? Is it
not? I tell you, Dutch might be the language of record. But English is the dominant language everybody speaks. There's a lot of Spanish-speaking people here, so they speak both Spanish and English. There's a lot of French people from Haiti that lives here, and even from the French side of it. So the predominant language spoken is English, but there's a mixture of other languages here, like French and Creole, like Haiti Creole type French.
Right.
French from the French side, and Spanish is dominant here. So everything is here. You find a lot of people here that speak 3-4 languages because of just mixing with the different cultures here. So
you're not impeded by anything if you say I'm gonna move here. I don't know Dutch. You're not impeded.
No. One of the things about moving here. And as an American, or if you're a person that has an American passport, or whatever international passport you have to always do your research and your homework.
Right.
And one of the research that I got into, because my wife is from here, so she has a Dutch passport. But as an American, there's a treaty between the U.S. and Holland that allows an American to live here for 6 months, then leave the country, and then come back for another 6 months. So you find a lot of Americans down here that does that. They'll come down here, spend 6 months of the year, do whatever they do, leave, and then come back for another 6 months, back and forth, and it continues like that. So it's not the transition for Americans, as far as my experience is concerned, is not very difficult.
Okay.
Because of the history of America with this country and the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
Yeah.
So staying on the Dutch influence, is there any local customs that you have found passed down from the Dutch who had taken over that side of the island that passed down to the people that is still practiced?
No, that's my impression. This is what it is. The Dutch themselves have not left any cultural impact on the community. The people are embracing their African heritage above everything else. So everything that they do, they remember their ancestors that were here, where were salt pickers, because this region was a very prominent salt industry going on, whether it's St. Maarten and Anguilla and those are different islands. So salt was the main produce of this area. So you'll find monuments of salt pickers on the road as you drive through St. Maarten. So they're embracing their own culture, the people that struggled and suffered that was here before them. The Dutch itself has not left that type of culture. Their government, that's what they control. The governmental system is still runs through Holland, still controlled by the Dutch. The framework that's there is all Dutch, but the culture itself and the history, people have not taken anything from them. They have stuck to the African that brought them here and what they survived through, that allowed them to survive through to the generation I see here. And that goes for most of the Caribbean island I've been to, that people have tried to embrace that history because they see the value in that. not the history of their oppressors.
Okay, good, good, good. So if I was to visit, I visited before, but if someone was to visit, what would that one event, whether it be an event or place or thing you'd say, if you come to St. Martin, you must do this?
Well, we have a lot of zip lines down here, and whether both the French side and the Dutch side, locals love zip line. People like to come when there's a regatta. Regatta is a huge festival with a lot of people with a lot of money, with a lot of boats that come in here and just have a big party on the beach. Everybody comes in for the regatta. They fly from all over the Caribbean to come be a part of the regatta. That's a major sponsored event. A lot of the major breweries. Just taking in the island in itself is a cultural event, because when you're on the Dutch side and you get a tour that takes you through the history of the Dutch side, and you can stop and eat at the local restaurants around, then you can go to the French side and you can do the same thing over. And the way they're set up their whole community, and you can simply walk through the main street and just look at all the stores and everything. It's really a really cultural event for me anyway, when I go to different parts and say, I'm going to walk here, I'm going to do this, because I can see from my eyes the history of the country still prominently displayed throughout the countrysides where I go, and the people that are here who are keeping it up. Sometimes it's not even the people who are born here, although they're very much involved in it, but they have sort of trained or educate foreigners like myself the importance of these things and why we should help them to continue the tradition. And I think that's something you learn as you come here in St. Maarten. You start visiting, like, something. Right. It might be a small land, but there's a lot of deep cultural heritage here. When you start talking about how the cemetery between Anguilla and St. Maarten, or St. Bart's, how Aruba or Curacao, and you start talking, you find a lot of people of Curacao who lives here. You're like, wow, the history is really intertwined with this, not the St. Maarten, but the entire region, and you get that by moving through the island.
Nice. No, I know one of the things that's quite popular there is that the airport.
The airport has a very heavy history, and I didn't know this until a couple of years ago. I was doing some research and I read it. The airport here was once a U.S. military base. That's how this old relationship started. It was once a U.S. military base, and when the U.S. decided to leave, they turned it over to the Dutch government that transformed it into what it is today. Okay. And that's how the U.S. and Holland relationship started in all that time, way back then. That's why they get some preferential treatments when they come here. So the airport and they've built it up. We took a beating in Irma, and they're still fixing it. They're still working on it. But it's a beautiful airport. I can't knock it.
Well, I'm for the folks who don't know I'm talking about, and correct me if I'm on the wrong island. I think I'm on the right island. Place on the beach, there's a beach, and the plane right over you, and you literally feel like you could touch the plane.
I think that's one of the most famous pictures on the internet. Anytime you put St. Maarten, that's the picture. People come from all over the world just to stand on that little strip of beach to feel the pressure from the airplane when it's landing or when it's taking off. And so it's famous for that.
Guilty.
Yeah. I believe. Listen to me, man. There's a lot of, you go down there like a day like today, Saturday, it has dozens of people just standing there watching plane land and take off.
There, you can't find parking.
You can't find. That's St. Martin's problem right there. Parking, just parking when you find a spot. Just put it and leave it there. That's the big thing about it.
So you kind of touched on this a little bit about, what you like, the history you like doing. I'm gonna ask it, because you may have more. What is a weekend off for you? It's a long weekend, and this is what I enjoy to do with the family.
I like to go to the beach. There's beaches everywhere.
Okay.
There's a beach actually on the French side that I like to, because the water is always calm. My kids love it. I got 3 beautiful children. So I take my wife, my kids, my sister-in-law, her family, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, all of us just put a whole bunch of food together and go to the beach. So on a long weekend, there's two things I love doing. I do island hopping. I go Anguilla is one of my favorite spots for relaxation. My wife's family is from there, so they still have a lot of family over there. So we go out to Anguilla, or I go to the beach. The beach is I was at the beach last weekend, and I'm going where I'm going tonight is right on the beach. It's the French side. So I tell everybody, you can't come without going to the beach. That's basically the idea.
All right, so I want you to settle something for me now, right? I've had this. I don't remember which country I was talking to about this. You said your wife's family is from Anguilla. Your wife's from
Sint Maarten, right?
Here, I think the Anguillans sound a lot like Jamaicans.
Actually, they tell me that St. Kitts sound like Jamaican.
What was
that? When I come, everybody think I'm from St. Kitts. They say St. Kitts is. They say that St. Kitts sound more like Jamaicans. But Anguilla, listen to me. I'll tell you this. We all sound alike. We might use certain dialects that maybe a little different, but sometimes we all stand up talking. Only when my wife always cuss me for that, because when I start talking real Jamaican, she don't understand a word I say. So she's like, speak English. I'm like, okay. but other than that, we all see as there's so much similarities in the culture in this whole region, and just in Sint Maarten with all these little small islands in this area, that is just hard to believe that I swear we're all from the same family sometimes.
We came from the same place.
Yeah, we are. Believe me. And sometimes they cook some food, and I'm like, I know that food. My grandmother, you might call it a different name, but it's the same thing I grew up on. Yeah,
it's the same thing.
Yeah, it is.
No, I know you're not lacking, based on what you're saying. You're not lacking anything from Jamaica there, but this is the scenario I always tend to kind of close out with. You land in Jamaica, you get off the plane. What's that first thing you're doing? Some people it's food, some people I'm visiting this, some people I'm doing that. What's that first thing? And you said you're not lacking. It sounds like you're getting your patties. It sounds like you're getting your jerky.
Actually, there's a Jamaican restaurant here that actually ships the patties straight from Jamaica here. You know what I mean? And so when they bring their refrigerated container here, I am the guy in the line getting it. Okay, so I don't worry about that. Funny enough, I tell you this. The other day I went home and my kids were home. All three of them sitting out in front of the TV. They're watching the YouTube channel of Jamaica and the food in Jamaica. And they all attacked me at the gate. Daddy, I need to go to Jamaica because I've never taken my family to Jamaica. That's a sad part of the story. My wife had
wait. What?
There's a reason for it. There's a reason. I'm a thinking man. I consider myself a thinking man. And I give it her part of the story. My wife has an uncle, her mother's youngest brother, who went to Jamaica on a trip and got murdered, and it traumatized her. Now her mom and dad was been, but she has never been. That because of that one experience. Oh. And for the first few years of her marriage, when I tried to get her to go to Jamaica, she was never interested. But in the last few years, she has actually come to me and said, "I'd like to go." I said, "I want you to go. I know you have had a bad experience, a traumatic experience, but Jamaica is not all trauma. Jamaica is a beautiful place. It's a part of who I am. It's responsible for who I am, and my kids want to get a chance to see the countryside and visit the place. My kids want to taste the food. They are watching YouTube on Jamaica now. Every day they bother me about going to Jamaica. So I am definitely going to, in the very near future, take them home. I wanted to show them where I'm from, where I grew up, and what the influences that I had that caused me to be who I am today.
All right. I will leave it at sharing the experiences is
yeah. I think that's my number one thing. I'm looking forward to doing that with my kids, and I was going to do it this year, but with all that's going on with COVID and all the other nonsense, my wife and I decided, something, let's leave it for a little while. Let's approach it again next year and see where we're at with that.
All right. So here is how I typically close out. Teach me how to say goodbye in the most informal way that the folks there say it. Now, we usually say, you know, a little more, you know, catch, older folks catch up on the strong later. Yo,
There is, the point I was talking to somebody, but I said, because there is no one dominant way of doing things here, they just go the basic way, see you later.
all right.
You know what I mean? They have a thing they always say, what do you say? There's a thing the phrase they always use about, is a scriptural phrase about, you know, if God permits, you will live to see tomorrow. See you tomorrow. I see you tomorrow if God permits, something like that. That's a little thing they always put in there. So that they're making you know that you don't control tomorrow. God controls tomorrow. So I'll see you tomorrow if God permits. That little thing they put there.
Listen, thank you.
You're welcome,
Listen,
man.
there's so much information you provided here. I was blown away. I'm sitting here like, wow. I went and
Thanks for having me, man.
I know I'm like, I gotta go back. So
yeah, it's a beautiful place.
If God permits.
Yes, I'll see you soon. Take care.
Show us some love now. Hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell. That way you don't miss a video.